Greetings guys, girls, and non-binary pals, and welcome back to another video. I hope that you are well, and I hope that you are fighting, because there is a lot to be fighting for. We are all aware that I have been on the move since March. I went back to Aotearoa, New Zealand to see my family, and I was there for a couple months, and then I went to Australia for a few weeks, and then I went to the US, and then we made a quick stop in Gibraltar on the way back to London. So it's been a lot. There's been a lot of moving around. I've had a lot of questions asked, right? A lot of people have a lot of questions, especially about the US, because it was my first time going to the US, other than when I've gone to Disneyland a couple times. It was my first time like outside of that area, and I talk about the US a lot on this channel because a lot of the people who say stupid shit on the internet that make their way into my vicinity are American, so we talk about it a lot, so naturally had a lot of questions. I will actually be making a video about that on my second channel, just answering questions about the trip in general, but a lot of them are focused on the US. But in this video, I thought a thing that I could do that could be fun, that a few of you recommended as well, is going through the subreddit r/shit Americans say, because it's very funny, and I think I can add to it with some of my experience now, you know? People have been asking me, they're like, do you hate Americans? And the answer is yes, but like in the same way I hate straight people and men, you know what I mean? It's like I hate Americans TM, not like Americans, you know? I just thought that I would clarify that. Obviously, I don't hate all Americans. I actually really liked the people that I met in the US. They were all really lovely, really helpful, really kind. Probably my highlight of the US was the people were really friendly. And I know that there's obviously a lot of people who say a lot of shit there, which is what we're talking about today. But like, just a disclaimer, because I know most of you are American, I don't hate you. Yeah, but before we get into it, I would just like to let you know that today's video is sponsored by Lalo, and I will be telling you more about that a little bit later on. I wish I lived in a city where I didn't need a car. Move to Europe. Plenty of cities you can live without owning a car. Europe sucks. It's like stepping back in time 30 years. No tech, no food, no chains, no hotels that aren't mom and pop tiny. It's fine to visit, but that's around it. This was such an annoying part of the US, was the fact that it was impossible to get anywhere. It was so hard to get around. Oh my god. We had to like walk, because we obviously don't have a car. So we had to walk everywhere because, you know, public transport like doesn't exist. Not a thing. And I'm saying that as someone who comes from New Zealand, where there is fuck all public transport, but that's because we're small. There's not enough infrastructure. The country has grown quicker than it's had the ability to like develop. But at least we can walk places. There are like good footpaths and like clear routes to places. Things are like close together. You go to a place and there's like stuff there. I really struggled with that in the US. I went to like Hollywood, for example, and there was nothing there. And I was so shocked. I was so shocked. I had to walk 3 kilometers to get food. What the fuck is that about? Baffled. Had to walk to the concert venues, and it was just a strip of like 1.5 kilometers of literally nothing except a 7-Eleven. What? I had to walk to the fucking venue in Oakland, and it was along the side of a highway that was like overgrown and covered in rubbish. And there was nothing except like one petrol station. And it was like a 45-minute walk. It made no sense. It was incredibly frustrating. Couldn't do anything except take Ubers, and that used all of my money. And rich to say going to Europe is like stepping back in time 30 years because, you know, there's history here, obviously. The buildings are old. There's a lot of history. I think it's really beautiful. I really love it. But you don't have like bank transfers. That comes up in a later point, but like that is baffling to me. And also politically, you're a little bit behind. You follow a constitution that was written like, 150 years ago and refused to change it? You want to talk about who's stepping back in time? At the airport, America will be lost to the immigrants thanks to Biden and Kamala. Norway, here I come. You're aware of the hypocrisy of that, right? Or do you think that immigrants can only be people of color. Would you not assume I'm an immigrant because I'm white? That's not how it works. I'm technically an immigrant now, here in the UK. Ma'am, if you go to Norway, you're an immigrant. So you can't be anti-immigrant and leave your country. Do you guys consider 23 minutes a walking distance? 23 minutes is a hike. Bring a water bottle and wear good shoes. 15 minutes is the furthest I'd be able to walk in professional shoes before getting a blister. Anything up to 30 minutes is walking distance, I personally think. 30? Jesus is Lord. Anything over 10 minutes is pushing it. That is a frightening thing to say. Yeah, it's so funny because like here, everyone walks everywhere. In their defense, I was not a walker before I moved here. I was from Auckland, as I said. There is not very good public transport there. It's just pretty much non-existent. They're working on it at the moment, and have been for the past several years. It's been like 8 years of trying to build an underground system, and it's a nightmare. But I would drive a kilometer to uni and then pay for parking because I'm fucking lazy. Is that bad for the environment? Absolutely. Is that like just a terrible thing to do? Absolutely. But you get lazy. You have a car, you get lazy. Not here. If you have a car, you don't do that because the traffic here is absolutely off the rails ridiculous. But like, I have to admit that I'm pretty guilty of that. When I went back home, I never walked anywhere. Here, I'll walk 2 kilometers to get groceries. At home, I'll drive like 600 meters to get groceries. It's terrible. But I do get it. Me literally being Spanish. And there's a comment that says, Spanish is a language, not an ethnicity. You're Mexican. Oh, I don't really know what to say to this one. We know that the US is very American-centric. They really struggle to see a world outside of their own country. And that is very prevalent in this instance. And I would like to say that this is a one-off thing that obviously one fucking American person said, but there were several of these in this subreddit. Like several people were saying this, and that's concerning. Why do you think they speak Spanish in Mexico and like most of South America? Why do you think that they speak Spanish, not Mexican? It's because the Spanish colonized them. I don't know how you didn't know that. I feel like that's a really important thing to know. My God. As a server, I'm very curious on how they get their money. Like, why no tipping? They're not servants, you know. Can someone please explain this to me? You tip everyone if you can, like your gas station cashier, your hairdresser, car wash people, etc. Anyone you can if you're able to. So how come not in Korea? Personally, that's just being so damn cheap. There's no honor in that, just saying. This is a little thing we like to call paying your workers and not expecting other people to do it for you. I know that's a shocking idea, but employers really should be paying their employees enough rather than relying on me to pay their employees. Tipping is like purely American. It's a ridiculous concept. And it was so confusing. Oh my God, I felt so bad so often because I had no idea who I was meant to be tipping or how much. And I didn't have cash. I was using card. And they'd like give me the bill. And so I give them my card and pay. And then they'd come back and bring me the thing that was like tip. And I was like, but you already took my card and I already paid. I was so confused. I had no idea what I was doing. Some of the time, you know, they'd give you the option on the like card machine to choose. And I would choose what people told me I should. Sometimes they didn't ask at all. Like in Starbucks, half the time they asked, and then the other half they didn't. And I'm like, I don't have cash, but I know I'm meant to tip you. Stressful. Nightmare. I hated it. I hated it. Oh my God, how are you not constantly stressed? The fact that that's just like what you do is like, well, it's so stressful. I always felt so bad when like they took my card and I paid and I didn't tip them. And I was like, fuck, you were so, yeah. Ah! But speaking of being in the US and just traveling in general, you know what a really good thing is to take with you traveling? Your best friend, Eat a Wave by Lalo. the sponsor of today's video. Ida Wave is Leilo's newest product that is absolutely incredible. It's been redesigned to work really well for the anatomy of people with vulvas, for basically everyone, which is really, really cool. And it does this because it's like bendy, so you can like reposition it so it like works for everyone, which is super cool because a lot of toys do not do that. So inclusivity is fantastic. And the way that it works is this part here has external vibration, and then this part here like moves. It replicates fingers is what it does for internal stimulation using the vibration from the external part as well, which is fantastic. So good. Highly, highly recommend. And another really cool thing about it is that it is controllable through an app, so you can choose your own like vibration patterns and intensity and tailor it perfectly for you and what you like. And I really love when you are able to do that because it means you are able to figure out what you like, especially when this does replicate like a human thing you can do, you know? So you're able to figure that out and then convey that to a partner should you choose to have one. Otherwise, you can just continue exploring it for yourself and figuring out what you like and then have something that works for you. But it is definitely a really cool and really important thing to be able to figure out your own body and know what you like and reclaim your own sexuality. This is something that I struggled with for a really long time. Bodily autonomy and ownership of my own body is something that I really had to rediscover and figure out after a traumatic period of my life. And I really found that toys like this and Leilo products really did help me in being able to do that and figure myself out and be more confident within not just my sexuality, but like my day-to-day life and connection with my body, which is really cool. Feeling like you have ownership and power of yourself is just a really great feeling. And I know unfortunately a lot of us sort of lack that connection with ourselves, either because we've been taken advantage of or because we're told to be ashamed of it when we shouldn't be ashamed of it. It is like a very normal and amazing thing to have that connection with yourself and to know yourself. And so I highly recommend, because it is an incredible product and it does help you figure stuff out. Self-exploration is important. And something that I will continuously put out there and encourage. Self-empowerment is so important in whatever way that you were able to find that. And this, for myself and a lot of other people, is something that is incredibly helpful and empowering. And I would like to talk about it more and normalize it. So I am always really grateful to work with Leilo. It's my new favorite product. And I know I say that every time, but I mean it every time. So it's a necessity. Such a nice color too. Like the bounce, which is like not that important, but I really appreciate when they look pretty. Yeah, so check her out. The link is in the description. Now back on to shit that Americans say on the internet. Countries with cars in space, and it's the US. Countries with universal healthcare, and it's the rest of the world. Universal healthcare, i.e. you can only get very basic operations and checkups done by subpar doctors. In America, we have higher quality practitioners and more advanced technologies and operations because doctors have a chance to make really good money if they get really good at their job. Privatized healthcare incentivizes innovation. It is unreal to me how many Americans don't understand what universal healthcare is. Like, I feel like it's all just fed to you by the internet, by Fox News. I don't know where you get this information from, but that's not what public healthcare is. Public healthcare doesn't eliminate private healthcare. They exist alongside each other. You have public healthcare and private healthcare. And health insurance also still exists. Public healthcare is there for emergencies or people who can't afford private healthcare. So it works on a priority basis too. So if I needed to go to the hospital, then I go to the hospital and I wait for hours, depending on the severity of the situation. You can either get rushed in and seen immediately, or you can sit and you can wait for hours to be seen because it's done on a priority basis. And then they do the checkup, they check if everything's okay, and they do what they need to do in the time frame that they have to do it, and that's free. So like, for example, there was one time I had to go to the hospital and I was seen very quickly. They checked me out. It took all day. It did take all day. It was very frustrating. But then once they did like my ultrasound and like checking everything, they were like, you need surgery to check your ovaries and your appendix, just in case. So then I was immediately put into surgery. They did what they had to do. I came out and I stayed the night so they could look after me. That was free. However, when I needed to get my tonsils out when I was 12, the waiting list was like 2 years long if I wanted to go public and have it funded so I didn't have to pay for it. So I went private because I had health insurance that covered that. So I didn't have to pay the like $10,000 to get my tonsils out because I had health insurance. But other people who want to go private, if they don't have the health insurance, they can go private and pay the $10,000 and get it done within a couple months. Or you can wait and get it done completely for free if you're willing to wait the few years. However, if it's an emergency and you need to get the surgery like right now, you get to skip the line and you can get it right now. You see what I mean? If it's like life-saving and urgent, it's free. And like, I'd like to trust that doctors are good people and they're not just doing it to make money and they actually want to help people, so they are going to try to do that, regardless of whether they get high pay or not, you know? And a lot of doctors do start in public healthcare and then move over to private healthcare to make more money. Like, both exist. Shocker, I know. It's just insane to me that people don't understand that. If your life is in danger, you should be able to get help and not have to spend thousands upon thousands of dollars for it. Americans, basic human rights. Is this communism? That's weird. I'm American and I have more rights than everyone else in the world. Ha 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 ha. Genuine question. What do Americans think the rest of the world is like? I just want to know. Because I went there and I had low expectations. I really did. I had low expectations and somehow it was worse than I was expecting. I just did not have a good time. Every single person I've talked to that's not from the US hates LA. Firstly, I don't know how you guys feel about LA, but I've been told my whole life that fucking Hollywood's the land of the dreams. Go to LA to make a name for yourself. It's the worst place I've ever been. Like, quite literally the worst place I've ever been. And I've been to a lot of places. But like, people talk about it like it's great, and that makes no sense to me. I don't understand. What do you think the world looks like outside of your country? You think you have more rights than everyone in the world? Bro. People with like uteruses rights were like taken away like 2 weeks ago. They're trying to vote to get rid of gay marriage again. Like, what do you mean you have more rights than anywhere else? You've never looked outside your country. It's so terrifying and so bizarre to me. The thing that gets me about the US is that people always expect you to know everything there is to know about the US and about American history, even though they don't know anything about the rest of the world or anywhere else's history. It's quite fucking unreal to me. You see it all the time on the internet and stuff, right? Where people like expect, like me, for example, to know about the colonization of the US and know all about their history, because you do, because that's what you learn in school. And then my thoughts are always like, okay, but you don't know anything about New Zealand history. I literally had someone say to me one time that they wished they were from New Zealand because they'd like to live in a place that didn't have a history of murder and wasn't colonized. And then you get upset with me if I don't know something about American history? Come on. Like, fucking Jesus Christ. It's insane to me. Anyway, it's a completely different conversation. I could talk about that for a long time. I won't. I'll stop there. But, like, my God. The US-centricness is, like, unreal to me. And the way that so many people don't even realize that they're being US-centric is also absolutely mind-boggling. Just because these children were put into cages doesn't mean they're not free. They're still staying on American soil, which is as free as it gets. What do you think freedom means? It's the way that people don't know what the freedom of America means. It literally just means you got independence from England. That's what it means. That's where it came from. You lost the ability to say that with any meaning like 100 years ago. Like, fucking chill out, man. That's all your freedom means. If you look at the list of the freest countries in the world, It's New Zealand. I'm pretty sure New Zealand is first or second. America is like 20th. Because you don't actually know what that means. You just like to say it. And keeping children in cages is one of the reasons you are not the freest country in the world. Because that's not what freedom is. Oh my God. Coming from the country that is actually the freest in the world, I would also like to say that not even that is that fucking free. Alright? We have a lot of issues. I talk about them all the time, but like fucking Jesus Christ. If you're like 20th, that is not good. Learn what words mean. Learn more about your own country instead of what you're being fed by Fox News and Donald Trump. That's my advice for you today. Anyway, this has been Americans saying shit on the internet. I can't look at these anymore because I have a headache. Anyway, the US was a time. It was a trip. Yeah, it was a time. I genuinely had a really incredible time there because I was there for concerts and the concerts were amazing. I didn't go out much because when I did not have a good time. So then I just stayed in after that. I really liked Seattle though. Seattle was cool. Seattle reminded me a lot of Sydney. So that's why I liked it, because I like Sydney. Don't tell anyone I said that. Don't tell anyone that I said I like Australia. That's embarrassing. Anyway, yeah, this has been my video. A bit different, but also not. I hope that you enjoyed this. I hope you learned a bit about me. I got way more angry than I anticipated. That seems to always happen. I don't try to get angry. I just am an angry person. So, whoops, I guess. A massive thank you to my Sprout and Above patrons whose names are up on the screen right now. And a massive thank you to my Kiwi Cat patrons. Wolf, Toulouse, Bobby, Sparrow, Josh, Mandy, Robbie, Silly, Ikazel, and Robin. I love and appreciate you so much. If you would like to become a patron, you get my videos a day early, as well as a bunch of other perks too. So check that out at patreon.com/savvycat. It means the world to me. I appreciate you a lot. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram, The Queer Kiwi, and Twitter, That Queer Kiwi. I hope that you enjoy the rest of your day. Stay safe. Keep fighting. I love you. Mwah.